Hello there, and welcome to Sync Music Matters, a podcast that explores the beautiful relationship between music and the moving image. My name is Jim Hustvedt, and I'm your host on this journey, as each week I seek to understand the people and the process behind the best music in TV, film and games. I'm talking to composers, but I'm also talking to editors, music supervisors, directors, and anyone else who's involved with the synchronous process of pairing audio and visuals. Hello listener, and welcome to another episode of Sync Music Matters. So, how do you score someone's psychologically unravelling? Well, in this episode, I'm joined by Ivor-nominated composer Chris Roe, who's going to tell us by unpacking his score for The Lady. The Lady is a series which tells the stories of Jane Andrews, who was Sarah Ferguson's dresser, and it outlines the crazy series of events that led to her murdering her own boyfriend. Chris walks us through a sound world that begins in glossy fairy tale glamour and then slowly fractures. He talks about his use of vintage synths like the Juno 6, pitch-bent textures and breathy vocals created with composer Niamh Ní Mheara. And in a very exciting new segment that I'm calling Q&A, delicious pun intended, we break down one of Chris's cues piece by piece, so you can hear exactly how those ideas translated on screen and in scoring Jane Andrews' Unravelling. And the cue we're going to break down is this one, called Sticking With You. Chris Roe, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm a massive fan of the show, so thank you.
Oh, brilliant, thank you. Oh, so you were aware of this before coming on today?
I have, yeah. I've listened to lots of episodes and it's, yeah.
Okay, well, you know the format, Chris. The same question as always. If we were to go back to a young Chris Roe, growing up on the mean streets of Sevenoaks, and we were to ask him, what would you like to be when you grow up? What would he have replied?
Yeah, I think my earliest memory of what I wanted to be was a lighting designer. So it was, I think, we used to go and see like shows in the West End, probably when I was, 6, 7, 8. And I just remember looking up at the, like not looking at the stage, but looking at above the stage at all the lights and kind of, it was probably like a techie, it's like every 8-year-old's dream, like seeing how it all works, and when you walk out into the interval past the sound desk and the lighting desk, and that kind of fascinated me, the tech side of it, but also the way that it can have such a huge impact on what's on stage, and sort of working out when they use like a gauze screen and thinking about how they would have prepared all the lights and stuff. It really fascinated me, and I do remember wanting to do that for quite a long time. And me and my brother used to put on plays at home, but wrote my grandparents and my parents in and filmed them. And we wrote a James Bond script actually, and and I was there not wanting to be in front of the camera, but I had a sort of floor lamp with 3 different bulbs of different coloured lamps that I would flick between, and I still remember changing the bulbs when they were super hot and sort of so yeah, that was the earliest one, I think.
Do you remember what the first thing you saw at the theatre was, where you started considering lighting?
I think I do remember seeing Starlight Express. I don't know if you saw it, I think it came back recently, didn't it? When, because they skate around the audience, and they say that kind of has I remember that, just the visual spectacle of it, and I'm sure that had some good dry ice and some great lighting there. But I mean, I just, even, in my, a school play or something, I would just be staring up at the lights and kind of.
Well, it's funny, because until I worked in theatre, I don't think I ever truly understood the intricate nature of all the different roles there are, from the lighting to, even technical, from, set pieces moving to the stage hands who are all working backstage, the costume, hair, makeup. There's so many people involved, many more than you obviously see on the stage. But I can imagine, particularly sort of with the lighting, you'd get to roam around in the rafters as well, which would be really cool.
Yeah. Although actually, I think that's probably what put me off, like the fact that you'd have to...
The heights.
Yeah, when I kind of realised that, like, I must have gone to some stadium thing at some point, and you just see those little ladders up the side of the stage. And yeah, I think that's probably what made me realise what wasn't for me. And also there's just so much not glamorous stuff, isn't there, behind? I mean, I guess same with composers, but there's a lot of heavy lifting, and is not all about the design.
Well, I suppose maybe you could have been the guy in the booth pressing buttons, exactly, rather than the guy upstairs doing the rigging. But,
just go straight to that job, just like cut out.
Go just parachute in.
Yeah.
Presumably, whilst this idea of getting involved with theatre lighting was going on, were you already playing music?
Yeah, I was. It was definitely going on at the same time. I started piano lessons when I was 5, very young. Was very quickly became my thing, really, that I loved. And my first teacher was really good at getting me to play by ear, and kind of, even when I was just starting out, learning about chords and touching on like jazz harmony, and so that really opened up music, and as well as going through the kind of classical route as well. But I'd be like later on playing like a Debussy prelude or something, and like be thinking, oh, this is just like D7 flat 9 or something, like kind of that really clicked. Being able to kind of see music in that way, and it also became it opened up, meant I did a lot of accompanying and playing for musicals back in the theatre and stuff, and kind of busking through stuff, and sight reading, and sort of sight reading, but also slightly improvising, and kind of definitely a huge part of what my identity really growing up. Like, I knew that I wanted to do something in music. Yeah,
you were the music guy. And at what point did you start to entertain the idea that you might be able to do music professionally?
Yeah, it's I suppose I knew that I always wanted to go on and do it as long as I could, and professionally, I don't know, it's one of those jobs you don't really see, isn't it? The film composition particularly, although I got a little window into it. I remember watching, it was in the era of DVDs and DVD extras, and they would often have something about the music, and I remember watching Gladiator, and obviously like love the score, but also then seeing Hans in his studio, and kind of with the kind of screen up on the wall, and just like seeing the mechanics of like how that works, because often those behind the scenes things are in the soundstage, or like in Abbey Road or something, and you see the orchestra, and you're like, yeah, but this was kind of in his composing room, I think, and so yeah, that sort of set something going, I think, and I got to do when I did work experience, in that kind of GCSE kind of time, I sent off like, I don't know, 200 emails or something.
Wow.
And got a composer called Ian Livingstone
yes, I know
wrote back. And I think it was just one of those times when because, I think about if I got those emails now, like, can I come and sit in your studio for a bit? But actually, I think at the time he was working on a feature, and it was going to be using an orchestra, which was kind of not what he normally did at the time, I think. And so he saw, I must have said something about being able to use Sibelius or something, and So yeah, that was really lucky. I went to his place for a couple of days, and then did a bit of, I think, sort of orchestration or transcription. I can't remember now, but yeah, that was amazing to see that firsthand.
Sending 200 emails is firstly very impressive.
Before ChatGPT as well.
Yeah, before you can sort of automate them. But I think the extent of my reaching out for work experience was, my dad knew someone who ran a hotel, so I did a week there, and my mate's dad sold photocopiers, so I followed him for a week, and that was it. So yeah, I missed the trick. That sort of obviously planted a seed of you thinking, wow, this is amazing. Did that then influence you in terms of going on to study music? It
did. And I went on to study music, a kind of general music degree in Manchester, University of Manchester, which was really great. They had a lot of composers in the department. So it definitely drew me. And it had a very kind of active music scene, obviously, in the city, but also student-led, like lots of orchestras, lots of I was really into jazz, and kind of there was just lots of that. It was great for that. And but the composition, it sort of took me slightly in a different, which was much more like abstract, experimental, I guess, like academic, being a university, and it was kind of frowned. I don't know, having you go from like school and watching lots of film scores and sort of, and then that was sort of frowned upon, writing kind of like tonal music or anything that's been done before in any kind of way. So I did that for a few years, and then did a master's back in London at the Royal College, sort of also in that same like contemporary classical field. So really kind of pushing. It taught me a lot about orchestration and pushing instruments, like what kind of cool sounds you can get out of the instrument, and when you take melody, harmony, and sort of all these like traditional things away, what are you left with, and what can you make something that sounds that like keeps people's attention, and it was a good exercise in that. But it sort of took me off in some ways, took me off the route of film composing for a few years, really.
Is the style that you're talking about that you were encouraged to make what my dad might have called squeaky door music?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Stockhausen and sort of
more avant-garde.
Very avant-garde, and it was the kind of thing that my parents would come along to a concert of it, and they'd sort of, I didn't understand any. Yours was great, though. Yours was
of course. Yours was amazing. The rest of them were rubbish.
It was great to sort of pick apart for me, and taught me a lot, and opened my ears to a lot of new sounds, which in the sort of scoring world are coming in, but they're it's sort of that you borrow elements from that world, I guess.
But it just took you in a different direction, and I suppose it has its merits in terms of, as you're saying, it gets you outside of your comfort zone and looking at music in a different way, and restricting you is by taking away some of the key facets of music and saying, okay, be musical. That actually can, I think I've talked to Nanita Desai about this, that it can actually be quite liberating by restricting yourself like that. And then obviously you come back to, your scores now are probably more melodic and more lyrical, but there's quite a lot of sound design in there as well, and synths as well, which we can see in the background, which we'll come on to when we talk about the score for the lady. Yeah. So finished Royal College in London. And then what was your path into scoring for TV and film then?
One big break was I did Faber Media Music used to do this little short course on like Wednesday evenings, I think, where they'd get in. I think I did one composing for documentaries, and they would get in each week like a new industry professional, either composer or editor or something, and they'd talk about their work, and they'd set you a little task, And one week was this editor at the time called David Fairhead, and he set us this, I can't remember what it was now, but a clip of something that he'd done to write to score for. And apparently only two of us sent in something for that week, and he really liked what I'd done and sort of got me then he got me to work on this cricket film that he was doing. It was a film about Test cricket.
Okay.
And sort of the corruption. He then got into that, which played at, the Sheffield Doc Fest and a feature doc. So a huge opportunity for me, really. And and then we went on, he then sort of switched from editing to directing more, and we went on and we've done about 4 or 5 projects, I think, Spitfire and Lancaster and lots of feature docs. So that was a great way in.
And if you cast your mind back to those initial scores, were there any major lessons that you learnt on those which you think you've carried with you to this day? And when I ask that, it's quite often, did you drop any clangers and make any major mistakes whereby you're like, right, I'm never doing that again? Or just certain things that have stuck with you that you think have served you well over the years?
I think I remember sort of in the mix, going to the first dubbing set, like the dubbing mix for one of, I can't remember if it was Spitfire or, and sort of, I think having thrown so much into the music and really as we all do, but, and kind of knowing about like how long it had taken to orchestrate, because I did all of that myself, and then for it to sort of be kind of, we've just got rid of that first bit, or which now is so completely, it's a collaboration, and whatever's best for the film, and I completely understand that now, but I think at the time you get defensive, don't you, and kind of it's partly how much has gone into it, and it's being thrown around like a sort of I don't know, like just a track, isn't it, at the end of the day? And so it's managed, I suppose. I mean, we went on work together on a lot of things, so I don't think I threw a massive strop or anything, but I think I just it's something that I wasn't prepared for, I think, having not kind of studied, like, I don't know, or like shadowed many composers, actually, apart from in that work experience thing I was talking about, but I hadn't done the assisting route and things, so I really didn't understand that part of the process and how many things were at play. So I think that was something.
Yeah, and when you say about the collaboration, I think I presume that has come up a lot, and I think something that I learned as well is that I think initially you see it as your role to provide that killer piece of music and that's it. But actually it's much more a case of, well, here's a starting point. What do you think? Yeah, this is great. Maybe we could change this, that and the other. And as you say, it's bouncing backwards and forward, and it's very much more a collaborative thing. But there is, when you've lovingly crafted something to picture and then it's just been hacked up, you just sort of think, whoa, I could have just given you a piece of music to hack up yourselves. But yeah, exactly. I think you have to leave your ego at the door, don't you, and not be precious about it.
Yeah, I think so, and just try and sort of, if you've got the trust with the person, to try and get that process going a lot earlier, and sharing things before you've fully invested in them, emotionally. It's a tricky thing though, isn't it? Because to create something, you do have to, care about it a lot. And but yeah, I found, like on this film, After Love, that I did, which was another kind of turning point for me, really. But that was incredible because Aleem, the director, actually came to the studio and sat with me, and we sort of, a lot of that was a process of stripping out, really, and we'd have the whole Logic session open. It wasn't just a case of doing it at the dub with a few grouped stems or something. It was really like part of the crafting process of the score. So yeah, it's when that's possible, that works really well, I think.
Is that a general difference between doing narrative and documentary then? The documentary, would they be a bit more liberal with the editing, whereas with the narrative there's more of a spotting and editing as you go process?
Yeah, possibly. I think it's part. I have noticed maybe it's a difference with TV and film. Maybe just the nature of the projects I've done. TV is so much quicker, and so I suppose there's less time to, the dub then becomes, maybe they might not have heard one or two of the cues or something before, because it's right up at the last minute. It shouldn't be, but the films I've done are sort of maybe more passion projects, or sort of have longer time frames, so you can kind of work on them more. But one thing I have found though with documentaries is that it's that is something where I've thrown the stems over to the editor, and then they've kind of they've done their own edits, and that can work really well as well, I think, because that documentaries, the whole story can just flip on its head. Like with a script, you've got with a film or narrative TV or something, you've got a script that they're following, and it will always kind of stay in the rough kind of order at least. But then, documentaries, you really do just have to throw ideas over, knowing that they will be completely, changed, and things will be turned on their head, but that's kind of exciting, because then you can just work more, I think, with try and think about the overall themes and concepts of it, rather than this will work for this scene, this won't. Well,
that probably provides us with a nice little segue to chat about your recent score for The Lady. Under the Skin. How did this come about? How did the job come about? Is this something you pitched for?
This was one that I'd worked with Lee Haven-Jones, the director. He was the second block director on Wolf, a BBC show that I'd done. We got on well, and he's really busy. He works on loads of different shows, and I think he thought that I'd be a good fit for this when it came along. So I read the script, and we had he'd obviously pitched me, and then I had a meeting with Florence Florence, the producer. It went really well. I think I'd read the script, and I'd pitched a few kind of concepts that I had, or kind of key moments in episode 1 that had really struck a chord with me, and I think they thought we were kind of on the same page.
And was that before you actually pitched some ideas, or did you actually pitch some ideas?
That was just sort of
those moments.
That wasn't sort of pitching musical ideas. I did follow up with a playlist of things that I'd done in sort of categories of different, things talking about, like we talked about how she's trying to escape. So sort of music to do with that, and then there's this kind of royal aspect to it as well. So some of the earlier, more orchestral things that I'd done. I followed up with a playlist, but that was, I suppose, when I pitch for things, it's either that way, if I've worked with the person before, or more often it's through, my agent will get a brief from a music supervisor, and then that's much more putting together a playlist of things that you've done for, and then the meeting happens after that, if they like it. So, And it's probably worth prefacing this. So The Lady is about it's about Jane Andrews, isn't it? Who was Sarah Ferguson's dresser, and was convicted of murdering her boyfriend. So when you first read the script, or indeed when you first saw some initial footage, what was the train of thought? What were the ideas? The whole thing starts with the crime scene, so you already know, and also I suppose the story's out there, so you know what she's done, and so you're trying to, every point throughout the series where you see this rage building, you're like, is this the moment she does it? Is it? And in episode 1, she's having an argument with her boyfriend at the time, and she slams down this glass and it cracks, and so that it got me thinking about glass and cracking, and that informed a lot of the soundscape, really. I used a sort of glass harmonica sample, as well as a Fender Rhodes, for that sort of. Well, I like the idea as well of, obviously you've got this royal connection because she works in Buckingham Palace for the first 2 episodes of the drama, and so she's surrounded by. She's coming from kind of working class background in Grimsby, and then suddenly surrounded by these sort of chandeliers everywhere, and so I thought it was a nice sort of double thing to explore of the idea of like the glass of the chandeliers, but also that moment where she throws the glass down, and so that informed a lot of the music, and then there's also this kind of. It's set during the 80s and 90s and through to the noughties, but we wanted to kind of. There's a lot of great tracks as well, like from the 80s, particularly episode 1. So, it's not I've done this in other projects as well, but sort of borrowing from that time so that the score feels like it's slightly blended with the tracks. So it's just basically it's an excuse to use the synths, isn't it?
Well, but sticking with you as well, there's which we'll dive into in a minute, but there's almost a little bit of a breakbeat going on in there as well, isn't it? Which just sort of felt reminiscent of, I don't know, Fatboy Slim, Chemical Brothers in the 90s. Definitely.
I think this particular cue, it's the end of end of episode 2, I think, and it does jump forward into the noughties. So again, it's something of the time, but also it's an exciting but for that stuff. I mean, I work a lot with a great kind of mixer and producer called Ollie Shelton, and he, for that, I will often kind of like sketch out roughly we work in different ways, but sometimes he'll kind of create a little sound library that I can then work with. Or for this, I think maybe I'd sort of dropped a loop in, but then he like finessed it and things. So it's a lot of the beat stuff is down to Ollie, and we work together a lot on that. But
and what was, because you mentioned the Juno. Was that the starting point, or were you sort of thinking more harmonically with strings?
I did. So there's this chord progression that goes through a lot of the cues, which was probably the starting point, because it's the other thing as well is I was thinking about fate and sort of Jane. I don't know. She's sort of, because you know what happens to her from the beginning. She keeps getting drawn into these situations, and she like can't escape them. So there's this quite ominous bass line and chord progression that goes throughout the series, really, which this cue starts with. But so I suppose I was building from that. But that dum 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 dum, that kind of synth part that comes in. It's almost like organ. One of the execs, I think, in the mix was like, "Oh, is that an organ?" And it sort of has that, again, probably a bit of an accident of sort of royalty.
Well, we should, I think, probably take this opportunity to dive into the cue with the anatomy of a cue, or Q&A, as I'm dubbing it. Let's start with the Juno, the real Juno, which we can see there in the background. So this is the theme that you were talking about. Let's have a listen to that. Nice. So that gives us a sort of recurring sort of motif, I suppose. What was the next part?
So yeah, it's kind of, I liked how it's kind of floaty, and also the pitch kind of wavers slightly. And I think I put it through a guitar pedal that I have as well, Shallow Water, Fairfield Circuitry pedal, which kind of produces this like slightly tape, unpredictable wobble as well, which sort of,
because there's quite a lot of tape wobble in there. Is that the Fairfield?
It's that. I think it's that, or I've also got a UHEL sort of tape machine. But I think just for sort of, most of this is the Fairfield, just for practicality, really, with working quick and stuff. But this cue happens after Jane meets her boyfriend, who she ends up killing. So it's the first time they meet, and it's sort of like that first chord. It sets that synth part into motion. It sort of sounds quite innocent on the surface, but then coupled with the strings that come in, it's that idea of like fate, that she can't escape, and these two, lovers are bound together, and it's an important moment in the show for sure. And then and that synth part is important for that.
So you mentioned the strings. We've got there's two different layers going on. There's the kind of more harmonic bowed ensemble sound, I suppose, and then you've got the sort of slightly more, I don't know, it's almost it was aleatoric, or the different bowing techniques. What's going on with those?
Yeah, so there's a kind of shimmering, like more textural strings part, which I used quite a lot for where Jane is sort of taking a risk, or like where she's showing Mia, who plays her, has this amazing like little micro expressions that go across her face when she's sort of testing the boundaries. And a lot of string tremolo and sort of harmonics, tremolos and things.
Okay, let's have a quick listen to that. Nice. Yeah, that provides this kind of atmosphere. And then there's the other string, the other string part.
Yes, and then the other strings we recorded, I think it was a 12-piece ensemble at Airedale. And yeah, it's amazing whenever you get real strings that bring it to life, I find. But in this cue, I think what I like is that they're playing a kind of minor chord against the major, so you get this kind of clash, major in the synth and this kind of flat third that kind of grates against it. So just something's not quite right with this first meeting. We know it's not going to end well.
Okay, well let's have a little listen to that. Yeah, nice. You get it quite a lot in the sort of horror trope, don't you? This sort of major minor sort of dissonance fighting each other. It just makes the listener feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Exactly. Yeah.
And vocals, because there's quite a lot of vocals in the score as well. Vocals from collaborator. Let me get this right. Niamh Ní Mheara.
Very good, yeah.
Yes, and we've got two different vocal lines there. One sort of, I suppose, a lead vocal, if you will, and then the other is sort of more rhythmical. But you've also distorted or changed the voices quite a bit.
Yeah, so there's a kind of interesting backstory to this in that. Well, I met Niamh. Niamh's an amazing composer. And I met her at a kind of composer event, and because I knew I wanted someone that was, could also improvise and sort of be experimental with their voice, and sort of. So I asked her to do it, and then I'm trying to remember the order of things, but Niamh had to have vocal surgery I think, sort of just after I'd asked her. And so, but I really wanted her to do it. And so I said, have you got any sort of textures or things that you could record? And so a lot of that breathy stuff that she recorded, she sent over to me, and I could sort of work with it while she basically had to take rest, vocal rest and things. But so there's sort of two strands to it. There's the more kind of forthright, like lead vocals, which were recorded much later, which I kind of had to sort of get away with samples until the end, sort of thing. But then the breathy things, it was really, I love doing this, sort of taking recordings and like putting them through different plugins. And for this one, there's a great one called Infiltrator, I think. And it sort of it's like 9 different plugins in one, and you don't know what's going on. But it's sort of, you just find these really cool little, you follow your nose with it, don't you? Oh, that's really cool. And then you kind of sample that. And there was a kind of glitchy rhythmic part which comes in as well. So it's got both the breathy rhythm as well as the process thing. Yeah.
The guys that name these plugins must have a whale of a time, mustn't they? Like the Infiltrator. Let's call it the Decapitator. All right. Basically, all of these plugins are sort of alluding to killing or hurting someone. But
very true.
Let's have a listen to that vocal line now. Sounds great. Yeah, lovely. And is there quite a lot of, there's some bit crushing going on in the score? Is there? There's some of the percussive elements, and obviously you've had a lot of fun distorting and all these sounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that break beat that we were talking about at the end, again, it's there was a sort of a little melodic thing that came out of putting it through. I can't remember which process now even, but it was something that I just landed on it, and then it became something which you come back to, and it's sort of, again, and it's got that like minor third thing as well in the percussion part, which so there's a lot of processing. I like doing that anyway on scores, but when you get the chance to do it, and you kind of justify it because it's part of the music of the time, and that's just a win, isn't it? Like being able to, I don't know, whenever I start a project, I really try and set up the rule, like the parameters or the rules or whatever of the that you're going to work within, because I find it's a good way. It's what we were talking about it before, when we have like limitations, and then I find I'm more creative within that, rather than if I just scored straight, if I just got the picture up and started scoring, you'd fall into certain patterns that you like, and sort of your comfort zone. So by making some sort of artificial rules that not only forces you to be more creative, I think, but also then you know that everything's got a sort of architecture to it.
Yeah. Okay.
That then when you are kind of into the nitty gritty of it, you can just trust that there are these bigger things that you've already thought about.
Yeah, nice. Well, let's have, so there's a sort of an organy sound which sounds like it's been a bit crushed. Is that the organ that you mentioned before, which is actually it's a synth? And it's sort of doing a lot, sort of ostinato. Yeah. Okay, let's have a quick listen to that. Nice. And then it's probably worth, I think, having just listen to the percussive thing as well, because it sounds like there's a bit of there's the minor third, the percussive thing going with the minor third in that as well.
Yes, yeah.
Let's have a listen to that. Yeah, great. Yeah, it's really nice. It's got that classical contemporary thing, but then it's also got It's got that the sort of the processing of a sort of modern digital world, and there's tape wobble, infiltration, decapitation.
Something for everyone.
Yeah. Do you have I mean, obviously this is the bit where we're nerding out over Q. So do you have certain plugins that seem to be a go-to all the time? I mean, I put that sound toys decapitation on pretty much everything. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I do. Yes, yeah. All of the sound toys things I love. The little altar boy.
Yes.
Also used quite a lot. Sounds quite strange, doesn't it? But
have you used that on Niamh's voice?
Yes, I'm sure I did. And because of the process as well, sort of, I pitched what she was doing quite a lot as a sort of demo, and to get sort of legato would like use sound shifter to sort of and some of that ended up staying in, you know. So yeah, little altar boy, just it's not a very clean pitch shifter, but that's why it's good, I think. And I like how you can kind of you can mix it in as well and have just like half of it up an octave or something. Yeah. But for sort of but the wave sound shifter, I mean, I can't. It's one that I wouldn't be able to live without. I'm sure there's better ones and sort of less glitchy ones, but I seem to put that on. It's such a useful thing to be able to, especially when you're kind of using themes in different places and things. I mean, that would work really well, but just pitch it often down, you know, works well.
Yeah.
Up, not so much, but that's for stitching things together as well in Pro Tools, or that's really useful, I find. Good Hertz plugins as well.
Good Hertz. I don't know Good Hertz.
There's a great one called Mega Verb again, which is like both. Yeah, I use that on a lot of. Well, my Ollie, who mixes, we share Logic projects, so he knows full well that I use that on everything, and particularly on Trigger Point, because it's got it's not only reverb but it's distortion as well. So it's sort of like
nice,
two for the price of one.
And we'll just shout out as well to, is it Ollie Shelton?
Ollie Shelton.
Ollie Shelton, because I think the mix is really nice as well, and I think quite often the mix engineers are unsung heroes in music, because they're the guys that place everything in the sonic space.
Absolutely.
It's brilliant. It works really nicely. Well, thanks for letting us deep dive into the cube, the anatomy of sticking with you. You mentioned Trigger Point this, then we'll probably just touch on that briefly as well, because you've just finished scoring season 4.
Yes, series 4. So that's been the longest running project that I've worked on, and it was sort of my first TV gig really that I was really lucky, because I'd done this film After Love, which is completely different. You wouldn't be able to draw a line between them. It's very, very minimal, and but I think the producer of Trigger Point at the time had seen that, and I think as with a lot of shows, they were going in thinking, we want something that that you wouldn't expect for this type of show. Trigger Point, I don't know, for people that haven't seen it, is kind of about a bomb explosives technician at an expo, Lana Washington, played by Vicky McClure, very brilliantly, defusing bombs, and sort of very action heavy, and although the first series is a bit more sort of, I think the director, wanted it to be kind of almost documentary style in some ways, or just following them through their day-to-day like they're doing something, it's life and death, but it's their day job sort of thing. So what was I saying? It's been a real journey for me, because it was what I gained experience on, really, like scoring for TV, and also it's just grown. I think they've just sort of leaned more and more into the action and sort of what the fans love, and there's more and more music. Like in the first series, I think every episode maybe had, 20 cues or something. Now it's like 45 or 50. Okay. It's basically a wall-to-wall score. So it's really, it has evolved both musically, I think, but also as a show. Yeah.
Yeah. And how have you done that? Because obviously the challenge you have is the same principal character going about diffusing bombs. So you want to reinvent the music, but without also reinventing it, if that makes sense. How did you go about developing it whilst also keeping it grounded in what's recognisable as the trigger point score?
Yeah, it's really interesting because you turn up to each new series has a whole new set of a whole different team, really. Different producer, different director. It's sort of exec'd by different people as well, and so and they've all want to put their own stamp on it in different ways. And yeah, it's a gift really having done the work of series one of setting up the sound world and all these different, and I did quite a lot of sort of sound design for series one, or thinking about the concept of like wires and because it all comes down to like which wire do you cut, that's the life or death thing, and sort of so then I recorded. There's a lot of EBow on piano strings, and then that sort of got happy accidents from that of like this kind of rattling sound, which then I sampled and turned into a synth.
Yes.
And sort of so there's a lot of
that first cue, the switch. I was listening to that, and I thought to myself, I wonder if that's an EBow. And then you get the sort of like the little bit where the bow touches the strings, and it sort of goes. But it was brilliant because it sounds like a fuse. It's like something, obviously we're probably not in the realm of a bomb with an actual fuse like in the Acme cartoons of Roadrunner, but it definitely felt like sort of brilliant.
Well, exactly. It's kind of. I'm glad that we had that sort of approach with the series one, I think, because it then, like I was saying earlier, once you've set all of that up, then you can play within what you've set up and and just trust your instincts and sort of go with the action. But you've got these kind of a different sound palette at your disposal, but as it sort of developed and became much more, in series 4, it's the first time we used I got an orchestra to play on it, like a remote session, because it's only sort of a few big moments. But, it has, without giving any sort of spoilers away, but the scale of the bombs and things, and has grown,
right, okay,
and sort of the scale of the plot and everything. So it felt appropriate to sort of scale up the music as well.
Ramp up the ensemble as well.
But I think it's still relatively kind of minimal.
Okay, you haven't gone full Hans Zimmer on it yet then?
I don't think so. There's probably moments where it gets close, but no, I think it's each series, I think it was in series 3, we talked about a lot about like ticking clocks, which surprisingly we hadn't really focused on, which you'd think that would be the first thing, when like 24 kind of thing. So, but it just, the nature of the device and every series has, a different kind of arch villain, and they're often playing games and playing tricks and sort of, so it's quite mischievous in a lot of ways, the score. And so yeah, I suppose it's been great because you can keep the same palette but just keep adding to it, and then certain cues from 3. The great thing as well is the temp, when they're temping it, when they're working, it's all mostly temped with things that you've already written, and so occasionally that's like, it's working really well, so you kind of build on it, or you can sort of take it as a starting point at least, because when you got 50 or 60 cues or something, it's a lot to write. So.
Well, it's nice when they temp it with your stuff rather than someone else's, isn't it? Copy yourself.
I think so.
Great.
Getting a taste.
And what about the music that's shaped you? You mentioned you started playing piano and sort of into jazz, but are there any particular albums or artists that you remember listening to, particularly in your more formative years, which you think have gone some way to shaping how you write today?
Yeah, I was thinking, I think I was shaped a lot growing up by what I played more than what I listened to, I suppose. Okay. I don't remember sort of sitting down and you know, in angst-filled, like teenage, like I don't remember kind of sitting in my room and listening to loads. I think I was just playing and absorbing loads of music that way, from classical and from jazz. But I mean, I did love Miles Davis and Kind of Blue, and I remember as well being given a big band album. Was it the Phil Collins Big Band? I can't remember the name of the album now, but it was
the Phil Collins of Genesis. Phil Collins.
Yeah. Mm. Yes. So I think he sort of assembled like the best session musicians kind of thing, like and it's an amazing like live album. And just, I remember like transcribing the sax solos on that and sort of really like picking that apart. And so I was kind of really into like, into funk, soul, and like just through playing it, I think, and like the Blues Brothers film and that kind of stuff. But I do remember listening to like, I loved aspect. I didn't sort of love all of the Coldplay albums. I think the bits that I loved the most were like the instrumental beginnings and ends of them, and sort of and I think that got me onto John Hopkins and because I think he produced a lot of their albums, and sort of then started listening to his stuff a lot, and Oliver Arnold's and that sort of side of things. Grand Brothers as well. I love, they're kind of in that sort of world, but they just work with a grand piano and like sample it and sort of connect it up to lots of like cool electronics and stuff. So that's, I think I'm really like listen to loads of stuff, but also growing up at least was more absorbing it by playing, I think. Yeah,
I can relate to that. I used to teach guitar, and as such I used to teach people songs they wanted to learn, and you actually learn a lot from just learning other people's songs, like just like different chord shapes and things like that. What about TV, film? Did you watch a lot of TV and film growing up, and were there any sort of particular milestone moments where you saw something about and you think it changed?
I was really into the kind of Bernard Herrmann scores, but then one score that really had a big impact was, do you remember the film The Village?
Yes.
M. Night Shyamalan. And I love a twist at the end of a film. But the score, James Newton Howard, I can't remember the violinist, but it was a sort of, I really loved how the violin became a character in the film, and it sort of made me realise, I guess I just really noticed that the score and how it was telling a story of its own, and also kind of pulling the wool over your eyes, because the score does, so it makes you think you're in a certain period in time, like kind of folk music and sort of slightly Vaughan Williams-y and sort of pastoral, but then it kind of manipulates the audience in a way and pulls the wool over your eyes. Yeah, I remember that's a real kind of standout. And then Johnny Greenwood scores, the Paul Thomas Anderson films. I think again, it's like you start to recognise where it was when I was, in the more like experimental contemporary classical phase, and then you start to hear sounds that you're working with being used in that context. And even now with One Battle After Another, and hearing sounds that have been around in that kind of world, but now sort of filtering in, is really cool, kind of recognising that. And
Well, I'm conscious of time, so we should probably start wrapping things up. But obviously, there is the quickfire questions. What is your favourite biscuit? That's the most important question.
Favourite biscuit? I think I'm going to go fancy.
Do it.
Choco Leibniz.
Oh.
Leibniz?
Yeah, is it E-I? Leibniz, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a strong...
I think anything that or Kit Kats, is that a biscuit though? I'm not sure.
We'll say yes for the sake of the...
They both have the chocolate hanging over the edge.
Yeah. Okay.
So you get that kind of extra little...
Well, I mean, the chocolate mix is a bold and it shows an evolved palate, if I may, Chris. A lot of people just go for a custard cream or a chocolate chip cookie, but you've gone specific, which I love. Yeah, Kit Kat. I don't know, confectionery. You can lump it in. It's all good. What do you do to let off steam?
I'm trying to. I mean, there's. It's funny. It's a good question.
I know you don't. You never relax. It's just on.
I never relax.
24/7.
No, I mean I'm really into cycling, and I got into it even more during lockdown. I remember that was the kind of. Do you remember when the roads were just kind of completely clear, and that was like around here at least. It was kind of the time. So it feels like now, like it's never going to live up to that. No,
you've cycled the best period in history, exactly, and it's never going to be as good again. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm also really into cooking and hosting, and we kind of, I think go to town on that kind of side of things. Like if, I love that kind of stuff, and like got really into the coffee making recently, kind of in too much of a nerdy way. It's
well, I would never sit in judgment of that, because I'm incredibly nerdy about tea, but I've recently I had some beans and borrowed a grinder, and I've been grinding my beans before I drink the coffee, and this is like an ozone coffee, which apparently is meant to be really good. And when you grind the beans as well, which is maybe what you're getting into, is there's a magic, isn't there? And so you sort of think, well, this should be every brew.
I know you can get down a bit of a rabbit hole, can't you? It's sort of precision, but then it's like, does it actually make a difference?
The beans, the roast, the grinder, the fineness of the grind. Yeah, there's so many variables.
And then there's the art as well, the artwork on top of the, like latte
art. Do you draw pictures in your coffee?
I did. My wife got me like a 2-hour course actually. Last year, so I kind of know the basics, but only the basics.
Okay,
and I've kind of got like 2 patterns down, and that's I haven't done a treble clef yet though. I think
that would be the ultimate, wouldn't it? Probably start with the bass clef. It might be a bit easier.
Yeah.
What is a little known fact about you? What's something that people might be surprised to hear about Chris Roe, other than your coffee art?
Oh yeah, the coffee art. I was on the X Factor.
Were you?
For 13 seconds.
Oh.
On TV.
Performing?
So we had a barbershop quartet that I was
amazing.
Part of. And we got it. So this was in the days before it was on stage, in front of a massive stadium. Yeah. Because I don't think I could have done that. So it was, but we still you had to go through a few vetting rounds first, and then we did get to see the judges.
Wow.
But they filmed us in the queue, I think, and that's the bit that got onto TV.
Oh, cool. Is that available on YouTube? Nerdy. If I were to search it, would I?
It's a good question. It might be, actually.
Oh,
I had to. So we did it it was like end of school, and then I remember I had to kind of get rid of people's names when they started applying for like serious jobs.
Okay.
Because they didn't want to be tarnished with it. But I'm sure. No. I'm sure it's on there somewhere if you go through the archives.
Yeah. I may well do that. Excellent. Look forward to it. What scares you?
What scares me? I think professionally, not having anything in the diary. as a freelancer.
As a freelancer, yeah, absolutely.
I like to be busy. I have a slightly weird, I wouldn't call it a phobia, but I find sunflowers quite creepy. Do you get this?
Really?
I don't know if there's a name for it, like...
Is that because they turn, their sort of heads turn, yeah.
They stare at you and they're all facing the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
And they're too big. A flower shouldn't be that big.
Mm. Yeah, they can be taller than a man, which can be intimidating.
Exactly. Yeah. But I wouldn't say it's not something that keeps me up at night, but kind of, if I'm, I might walk the other way,
Yeah, sure. And finally, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
I think a work thing, I would say watch more films, actually, because I find I obviously focus so much on music growing up, but we forget that, someone said recently, they're kind of not, you're not in the music industry, you're in the film industry. And I think that's really true, because so much of, who you're like spending time with and also kind of pitching for things and interviewing, I always feel like I'm playing catch up with references. I mean, I feel like I've seen a lot of film and TV, but you can't be in the same way, I guess, that we have that kind of musical back catalogue to like fall back on, or that's built those foundations. You can't cheat that, can you? With like, even if I just watched a film every day, there's such a huge like history of it. So I think building that up from an early age that would have been good. Yeah.
Well, I suppose the flip side to that is that if you haven't seen a lot of, you don't have quite the same library of film references to draw on, that maybe means you maybe have a different perspective, which could be a positive thing.
I know what you mean. You kind of, and you don't have, in the same way as like if you're not super into kind of knowing what different genres are and things like music, you're kind of not coming in with too many preconceived ideas. Yeah, that's one way of. I think it's more for like the discussion and just having quick. If you have a vision for something, be able to like reference things is so useful, isn't it? And sure. Having that shorthand rather than the actual like creative work you produce. I think it's more about that kind of, and also building a connection and like, it's
sure. Well, it's funny because I think on that line of thinking, if I was to give my younger self some advice, it's probably to watch less films, because I get together with a friend of mine and we've been revisiting all the sort of action movies from the 80s and 90s, and it's actually, I can probably count on one hand the number of films we've watched that I hadn't already seen. I seem to have spent my youth watching films. Obviously I had to go to a video library and rent them. It was even pre-Blockbuster. It was Ritz before it became Blockbuster. But so that's great.
That's great, though, to have that library. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to chat, and thanks so much for sharing your cue with us as well. It's really interesting to dive into those and have a sort of a deeper understanding of the process and where you went with it.
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Before we go, we should probably mention Bad Apples. Which is a Saoirse Ronan film which you've worked on and has already premiered at Toronto Film Festival?
Yes, Toronto and then in London as well, which was great. But I'm so excited for it to come out because it's been such a long time, and they're just waiting for the right moment, I think. But it's one of my favourite projects that I worked on, and really got to have a lot of fun with the score. The director, Jonathan, is really musical, a crazy kind of Swedish guy, and knows more about classical music than again, when we're talking about references, would reference so many different symphonies and sort of like real love of music. And so he was really up for trying different things, and for the music to be really bold and have a real character. So
mission accomplished there. If you were to describe it in one or two sentences, how would you describe the score?
It's kind of...
Or just even words, single words.
Single words. Recorders. Grimy. Steampunk. Circus music. My kind of thinking is kind of like school concert band gone wrong, like this 10 flutes and every different type of recorder, and we had this giant saxophone, and it's a lot of fun, and
And it sounds like you probably put a lot of the woodwind through either Decapitator and or Infiltrator as well, because there's lots of sort of mangled, sort of dirty sounds going on in there as well.
all the secrets now. Yeah, something like that. And also I think recorder, I worked with this great recorder player and it was all remote, a lot of it, and she would demo things with just her phone mic, I think. And then some of that ended up staying in just because we couldn't kind of recreate it in the session. So just the way she played. And so
it's so funny that, isn't it? Yeah. Christopher Tapia de Vera and I were talking about this, is that you record something on your phone and then later go back and try and re-record it properly, but you can't ever capture what in that moment you managed to capture. So it's like, well, let's just use the phone recording.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It should be coming out later this year, I think. And it's a wild ride.
Definitely look out for that. Brilliant. All right, Chris. Well, where can people find you? Do you social? Oh, that's my dog. Apologies.
I dabble.
You dabble in a social?
Just as I think a lot of people have sort of abandoned Twitter /X. Instagram is I like the kind of mixture of like stories and reels and stuff, and so I post some stuff on there, and music in all the usual places.
Great. Well, I shall link to that in the show notes. But Chris, good luck with everything. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat.
Thanks, Jim. Cheers.
Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, and given that you've listened this far, I feel you might have, then I would be honoured and incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to subscribe, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. By subscribing, you'll automatically be notified each time a new episode drops, and by rating the show, you tell the artificial intelligence that will soon be running the world that this podcast is worth listening to. I certainly get a lot of insights and value from these conversations, and I genuinely hope you do too. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, then you can email me, podcast@larkmusic.com. Larkmusic.com is my digital abode, and the home of the podcast is larkmusic.com/Sync Music Matters Podcast. And Sync Music Matters Podcast is hyphenated. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.